Alright. Good lord. Good lord. Alright. 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 Let's warm up with a game of Minesweeper. And we'll see if people filter in. Bitches gay. How can I be gay? I'm gay. Did we already hit a guess? Damn. Okay. Yeah, because it could be here, in which case one would be here. Could be here, here, here. Or it could be here. Yeah. Europe could be here. So what gives me the most information? If this is a 1, it gives me good information, as with this. I guess this would give me the most information, maybe? No, that wouldn't give me that much information. Nah, whatever. Should have gone for a 1 and 3, but that was not looking like a promising board. Hmm. This one might actually be fully solvable, which would be nice. Assuming I don't fuck it up, which I shouldn't. You know, it's always possible for me to be a complete fucking idiot. Uh-oh. Starting to look a little sketchy. Fuck. Fuck me. Uh, well, god damn it. What you're looking at right now is Minesweeper in the corner with a video on the side. Oh wait, shit. Hold on. Hold on. I just realized maybe it's solvable. Fuck. Oh. Oh, it's solvable. Maybe? No! 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 Look at this. Ah, right at the end, too. What the fuck, man? This is so sad. Alright, moment of truth. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Hey, I did it. All right. Well, it is now time to look at this video. So I got recommended this video. Nice. Oh no. It's that's one way of putting it. All right. Anyway, this video came up in my recommended. And it looked very funny in just in premise. So I'm curious to see what happens here. And how this video holds up with respect to explaining logical fallacy as well.
Oh my god, is Flaky a power scaler? No. No. I used to do versus debates here and
Okay, so he's not a power scaler, but used to be one.
there. I used to do versus debates here and there, but some people can get so stupid I genuinely start tweaking. However, as a result, here and there, but some people can
Over Minato versus the Flash. Is okay, power scaling people. What is funny about this? Is this like a very lopsided matchup, or is it just like they have nothing in common, so it wouldn't make any sense to match them up kind of thing?
get so stupid I genuinely start tweaking. However, as a result, I would say I've become pretty well versed in the art of combat debate. In fact, this video was originally going to be a response video to Six's Itachi versus the 5 Kage Summit video, but I really don't want to dip my knees in versus debates again in fear.
Okay. Also, you got me wrong if you think I'm gonna challenge Six. I don't know who
Tweet
Six
comes
is.
back. So instead, I thought of this. Fallacies are as they sound. They are arguments used in
Pretty much to which one, Marum?
debates that are either dishonest or underhanded in certain areas, often trying
No. A fallacy need not be dishonest. Underhanded, maybe, but I don't know. That's a little. Oh, are comic books just like extremely overpowered? Or well, I guess the issue is that comic books are really fucking inconsistent, right? Like you might have this just one fucking obscure comic where they do something really fucking stupidly overpowered, and then this forms the entire basis for an argument, I guess.
trying to force or corner someone into agreeing with you instead of actually trying to trade numbers to see who's the most accurate. Surprisingly, there isn't a lot of
I mean, sure. How do you trade? I guess sure.
videos talking about every fallacy in power scaling. In fact, the only one I could find was this video talking about just 5 of them. Which, fun fact, there isn't 5, there's 50.
There's 50? There's 50. There aren't even 50 like informal fallacies. How are there 50 for power scaling? How? How? 50? No.
Most of this should be common sense, but I've seen so many genuinely brain dead people on Twitter that I feel the need to go in depth on even the most basic of these fallacies. And I'm gonna be using Mario as a reference point for that, because that's some more fun! I'll be using Versus Battle Wiki as a reference for it. If there are any more I'm missing, do let me know in the comments.
No matter what kind of work you're
Maybe more than
team
50
does.
in that game.
Asana can help
I never
manage it.
actually
From project
looked at
intake
it, though, so.
Let's say I'm trying to debate with you who is faster, Mario or Pikachu. I try to tell you that Mario is faster than Pikachu because he has light level reaction. If your response to that
What? What does light level reaction mean? I mean, you say that, but there might be 50 markers here. So Okay, what does light level reaction mean? I don't know what that means.
That is, Mario's not light speed because you are dumb, or there is no way you actually are smart enough to say that. Congratulations, you are a user of the most overused and dumbest fallacy in all of debating, ad hominem. Ad hominem is when you try to devalue someone's points, not by disproving the points, but
Okay, light speed reaction time. I mean, well, no, not in power scaling. Some things go faster than light, right? In whatever fucking fiction there is.
in trying to
Also, ad hominem. I mean, I guess this is like a fine description of ad hominem, attacking the person instead of the argument. Like, no, like, you're stupid for thinking that kind of thing. They can dodge light speed attacks? Okay. It, is Mario actually able to do that, or is this just like an example?
devalue the person. I cannot explain to you the amount of comments I would find on any video. Simply put, it does nothing for the debate. Properly, logically, disprove the notions first and foremost. Otherwise, a proper debate session will turn into a bitch contest in a matter of seconds. A better argument would have been something like, no, Mario shouldn't be because most of his showings are Mach speed and stuff like that. Hey man, I'm just saying.
Mach speed is sound speed, right?
Mario can't throw a punch like Kratos can. What the heck? Kratos is not universal. Oh, look at that. Another fallacy. This fallacy is called the straw man. Straw man is when you take an argument and decide to completely exaggerate what is being said here. And
well, no, that's not what a straw man is. A straw man is just when like, it means that you just construct a different argument. It doesn't mean necessarily that you're exaggerating the argument. You could be understating the argument. That would also be a straw man. Like, it just means that you're not. It means that you are. The etymology, or I guess the imagery that it's supposed to be, is that you are constructing a straw person that you are then burning, because it's easier to burn the straw person than it is to burn like the real person, right? Like that's the idea. So it doesn't need to be exaggerated. It could be understated. It could just be a completely different argument. Also, what does universal mean?
straw man is still. Oh, you can't throw a punch like Kratos can. What the heck? Kratos is not universal. Oh.
Well, hold on. No, hold on. This is not a straw man argument.
Look at that. And decide to completely exaggerate what is being said here. And as a result, completely ignore the entire point of the statement.
Hold on. Wait a second.
And what the heck? Kratos is not universal.
So here he said Kratos is not universal.
Oh, take an argument and decide to completely.
So Kratos, okay, so this is like two different things. So like, okay, but one of these is a better argument than the other, right? So Mario can't punch as hard as Kratos. If I say Kratos is universal, that wouldn't really, well, no, it could be that they're, what does universal mean, I guess, first of all? Mario can't punch. Okay, so the other version of this, if this says Kratos is not universal, like the person in the other thing said, right? If I said Mario can't punch as hard as Kratos, but then but it turns out that Mario is universal, but Kratos isn't, then this would be a fine counter argument, right? Because you would be saying, assuming that being universal means that you can punch harder, which I'm gonna assume it means. But like, if Mario is universal and Kratos is not, and you say Mario can't punch as hard as Kratos, but Mario is in a higher rank in his ability to punch, then pointing out the fact that Kratos is not universal, i.e., that Kratos is in a lower rank, that would be a completely fine argument. Like, you're making somewhat of an assumption that like rank equates to punching strength, but it's not like a straw man argument. Like, it could very easily be a correct. It could very easily be like a consistent argument, depending on like what the other premises in the debate are. Yeah. What does universal mean? Does anybody, K. Richard, Maram, what does universal mean, please?
Exaggerate what is being said here, and as a result, completely ignore the entire point of the statement. Strawmans are usually hard to spot here, and as a result, completely.
The rebuttal focused on their power levels when the original statement was about striking power. Oh, okay. Sure. I guess that's fair. So if striking power is a different thing from power level, then sure. But it could be that we're just talking, it's just like a proxy measure, right? Like, it's not necessarily a straw man argument. It could just be like a weak abductive argument. Like, if Kratos is in like a way lower tier than Mario, then it would be kind of unlikely for it could just, okay, sure. Yeah. I guess that's fair. I would have used a different example, but that's fine. Like, if you want to say, like, I would say that it's just a false equivocation if you wanted to make this point. But sure.
Ignore the
Not really
entire
a straw
point of the
man.
statement.
It's a-
Strawmans are usually hard to spot in a debate, but if you notice a weird leap in logic or an attempt to try twist.
So Flash is slower than Sonic. Oh, so you are saying Sonic can phase? That he can run to the end of time? But again, okay, but again, this could be, what is phasing exactly? Is phasing a specific like term? Because if phasing just means going so fast that it can run to the end of time, then then this would follow, right? So if Flash is slower than Sonic, but Sonic is able to run to the end of time, then like, or rather, sorry, if Flash is slower than Sonic and Flash is able to run to the end of time, then surely Sonic would be able to run to the end of time. Right? Because Flash is slower and Flash is able to do it. So then Sonic should also be able to do it because he's faster. If we're assuming this premise to be correct. But that obviously that's premised on Flash actually being able to run to the end of time. But this is not necessarily a leap in logic. If both parties agree to the idea that Flash can run to the end of time, then it would follow from this that Sonic should be able to run to the end of time. Like, just that would logically follow.
Or corrupting your words, that is usually strawman tactics, and is a fallacy, as it doesn't properly try to address the argument you might be trying to make. Hey, I think Mario is universal. Wanna know why? Cause nothing said he can't be. I love this one because it's the funniest argument I'll hear out of people sometimes. Burden of proof is when you make a statement and claim it's true, by saying there's a lack of evidence to prove.
This isn't really a fallacy. I mean, it's like bad reasoning, but like, I don't know, burden of proof debates are kind of fucked. Like,
prove it false. This becomes a fallacy because you don't have proof that it's true anyway, so it cancels itself out. Funniest thing, I see this argument with Sonic.exes a lot. Prove to me that he isn't universal without giving proof that he is universal. You really can't argue it's stupid, can you? Appeal to motive is when you once.
Well, okay, hold on. It depends on where you think the assumption should lie, right? So, like, for example, if you have evidence for, you could make like presume that there's evidence for and against, right? At some point along the line, the burden of proof has shifted. So if I give you a bunch of evidence that Sonic.exe is universal. If I don't give any evidence, if I give you a bunch of evidence that Sonic.exe is universal, whatever that means, right, it can stop a universe level threat. If I give you that evidence, then I think it's fair to say that the burden of proof has shifted to you to like either refute that evidence or to find another piece of evidence that contradicts it, right? Like that seems like a fair assessment. So it could be fallacious, but it could also not be fallacious.
Once again try to disprove sentiments not by devaluing a statement, but by devaluing a person, once again giving proof that he is universal. You really can't argue it's stupid, can you? Appeal to motive is when you once again try to disprove sentiments not by devaluing a statement, but by devaluing a person instead. However, instead of throwing an insult, you just question their motives. This happens a whole lot in the Mario vs. Sonic debates I see, where instead of trying to debate points out, you might hear a conversation go like, Sonic is so much faster than Mario, and Mario doesn't have ways to counter super form when his star runs out. Wow, this does nothing.
Did you cut that too early? Wow, look at the Sonic glazing. I mean, sure, that assumes that they're trying to make an argument, though. Like, what if they're just trying to make fun of you? Also, it could be that I'm just saying, like, what if somebody has made a bunch of bad arguments in the past, and is clearly like very motivated, in a particular direction for one particular character, and like all previous arguments they've made have been really bad. Like, is it really so irresponsible for me to think that the next argument they make would be really bad? I don't know. I think if somebody made enough bad arguments that I would stop like giving them credence, that I would stop paying attention to what they say and probably just say, you are engaged in motivated reasoning here. But maybe that's just because I value my time.
This does nothing. It actually does nothing.
Like, it could be maybe I'm under the assumption that like power scalers value their time, and maybe they don't value their own time, which is why they're engaged in power scaling debates. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was a bit mean.
What did you prove in saying that? Nothing was disproven in saying that. Appeal to popularity. I love this one, because this is literally everyone. How many polls have you seen of who would win in a fight, and the poll always goes to the more popular character? Unfortunately, saying that one character is more successful than another is not a power statement. Crazy, right? This applies for general sentiments too. Just because the general public agrees that one character should win doesn't necessarily mean that it's correct and that it's a valid argument that you can use. Everything needs to be based on logic when it comes to debates.
Okay, so I'll give him half credit there. Actually, I'll give him like 75% credit. Okay, so
it's absolutely.
You know what? Even 90%. I'll give him 90% credit.
Which one of you is real?
It's writing up there.
Mario should.
So I think that he's right. That obviously, like a YouTube poll settling like a power scaling debate is really dumb, right? Like it seems pretty bad for that to be the case. Because obviously which character is more popular doesn't necessarily weigh on how powerful they would be in a fight. Unless maybe God. No, I'm just going to say that it won't. Even though I can like construct examples where it would, I'm going to say that it wouldn't, because it's too nitpicky. But with respect to what do people think, or who do people think would win most, it might be some kind of evidence if the characters are of equal popularity. Like it might speak somewhat towards what the correct answer is, right? Like obviously it doesn't speak to it with absolute certainty, but it might be like some kind of evidence. Right? Like if everybody, or if like a majority of people got a question, got a different answer on a question than you did, and it wasn't clear which answer was correct. If they're not in like a an epistemically disadvantaged position to you, then you might want to reconsider if you got it correct, right? Like I'm not saying that with absolute infallibility, but there's something to be said. Yeah. There's something to be said for the idea that if enough people disagree with you, that you should at least check. Not to say that you should completely override it, but I'll give him 95% credit there. That was a good point. That was a good point.
Should be stronger than Link, because Mario characters are stronger than Zelda characters. You can see where the problem is, right? Circular reasoning is when your assumed argument is...
That's not circular reasoning. If anything, that would be a composition division fallacy.
Is based on another assumed argument. Both of these are statements without proof provided, but because
Mario was stronger than Link, Mario is stronger. Well, no, it's the actual argument is Mario is stronger than Link because Mario characters are stronger than Zelda characters, right? That's not circular, but it is like a fallacy of composition. Like well, no, like if I could prove somehow that all Mario characters were stronger than the strongest Zelda character, then it would follow actually that Mario is stronger than Link. Right? Like if I could do that. Though at the same time, it's like it depends on what you mean by stronger, right? Because who's stronger doesn't necessarily mean who's gonna win in a fight. Like that's not specifically the same thing.
the second statement is acting as proof for the first, you are made to think that the sentiment is true, but you cannot make an argument like this unless you have proven that argument beforehand. Otherwise, it's circular reasoning. Non sequitur. Non sequitur is when you use a fact as proof of something that just doesn't pertain to the argument.
Okay, so this is an interesting one because, just to be clear, like all invalid reasoning is a form of non sequitur. I mean, so here's the thing, SP26. SP26, do I know you? Well, who SP26. So the thing is that it's like circular reasoning is actually kind of hard to pin down because if you could argue that all deductive arguments are circular, and the way that you would argue that is basically that deductive arguments are conservative, which is to say that you can't get new... Oh, Soup! Holy shit, hi! I didn't think you would... I'm a huge fan. Huge fan. Anyway, sorry. What was I saying? Right, so here's the thing. With deductive arguments, right? One thing that's hard to say is if they aren't all circular, because technically speaking, anything that you derive from the premises was already contained within the premises latently. Like, you can never get new information out of it. It's always going to be anything that's derivable from the premises is already going to be there. You won't get anything new. So, technically speaking, any argument that's only deductively valid is going to be circular. At least so the argument goes. I'm talking classical logic here. Like for a logic that's like sound and complete, yes, that would definitely be the case. Like logic's if you have like an inductive logic of some kind, like maybe you could do that, but I don't know that there is an inductive logic that's like sound and complete. So Also, to be clear, I sound... Oh, you're talking about something different. In Boolean logic, all P's are F does not mean some P are F. Why? Okay, so that's like an empty domain problem, right? Because if the domain is empty, then it could be vacuously true. So here's the thing: in classical logic, um, oh, okay, cool. But yes, like with a non-empty, yes, you always assume a non-empty domain with classical logic. At least classical first order logic. Anyway, though, the point is just logic is conservative, so it's hard to say what a valid or invalid, or not a valid, what a circular argument actually is. I'm not saying like 100% that this is how it works. I think you could make the argument that you are getting new information because it wasn't apprehendable to you in the form that was that was given, right? But some people have made the argument that all deductively valid arguments are circular. In general, though, I think the most useful definition is more something like you use a premise in the argument that somebody would not accept unless they already agreed with the conclusion. So here's a good example is like the moral argument for God, right? So it goes something like fuck. I don't remember the exact formulation of it. Or it's like, right, it's like without God there are no objective moral values. But there are objective moral values, therefore there must be a God, right? So something like that. I don't know why, like, if unless you're like really motivated to prove the idea that God exists, you wouldn't really accept the idea that without God there are no objective moral values. Like that it's not circular completely in the sense that it doesn't necessarily entail on its own that God would exist, but it's circular in the sense that people don't have a reason to accept that premise most of the time unless they are already trying to affirm the existence of God. And this is true of a lot of apologetic arguments. So like the modal argument for God, right? Like it's possible that God exists. God is a necessary being, therefore God exists if it's possible that he exists, right? And this kind of turns on what it means for possibility and necessity. But you wouldn't necessarily even say that God is a necessary being unless you already believed that God existed, right? Sean Fleming, you are in a stream about logical fallacies. Sean? I think I'm just gonna say Sean. Anyway,
If I told you that Mario can jump really high, and then say because of that he's building level strength, you might think I'm an actual idiot, and I would be. A similar argument would be Goku can create
what this has to do with Mario? I'm reacting to a video. So the video is trying to explain logical fallacies in power scaling using Mario as an example. Also, anyway, for non sequitur, all non sequiturs, or rather, all invalid arguments of this form, like all fallacies, are basically non sequiturs. Like every fallacy is a non sequitur. It just means that the argument doesn't follow from the premises, or rather, the conclusion doesn't follow from the premises of the argument. That's all it means. So why it gets its own category is kind of yeah.
After images and is therefore speed of light. Just because there's some loose connection to the argument does not mean the argument is suddenly proven. They would either require more explanation or it just doesn't work. Red. This is when you try to rebuttal against a statement with a point completely unrelated to that statement. Mario has to be faster in light because he can dodge lightning from Cackletta. Okay, yeah, but he never actually beat Cackletta on his own. Both statements
What?
are technically true, but statement 2 does not rebuke statement 1.
I see. All right, that's a, you know what? I'll give it to him. That's a good enough that is a good enough example of a red herring. Because yeah, it doesn't rebut the point at all.
Statements are technically true, but able to lift a building does not rebuke statement 1. Association fallacy. Mario is able to lift a building, so a Toad should be able to as well.
Again, it could be that if we proven that Toad is able to or has as much strength as Mario, but we've never seen Toad actually lift a building, right? Like, imagine that, right? We've proven some other way that Toad is stronger than Mario, but we've never seen Toad lift a building. But if Mario is able to lift a building, then surely that supplies some evidence that Toad is able to as well, if Toad is stronger than Mario.
Association fallacy is when you argue that a feat is possible because of a connection a person may have to another character with that feat. A simple connection is not enough of an argument to suggest this. You might have seen me use this fallacy in my 106 Kakashi video here and there, in fact. Argument from ignorance. This is a little bit tricky. It's similar to burden of proof, in that you make a statement based on a lack of evidence. There has never been proof of anyone being faster than the Flash. He has to be the fastest person in all media. This can be troublesome, as you can say something like this but still not be a fallacy.
I hate that this guy uses then instead of than. Like, holy shit. He keeps doing it. He keeps doing it.
You said there has never been proof of anyone being faster than the Flash, so he might be the fastest in all media, wouldn't be a fallacy, as you're just connecting a sentiment instead of trying to make a cold hard fact. But this is a jump in logic.
There has never been proof of anyone being faster than the Flash. He has to be the fastest person in all of media. Sure. Yes, that's fallacious. I agree.
Argument from incredulity. I think I'm saying that correctly. This is an argument similar to ignorance, but instead of it being based on a lack of evidence, it's much rather not being able to believe presented evidence. Basically something like, nah, he's not that strong. That don't feel right, so he can't be that strong. It's clear to see why this argument doesn't work. It's not based in facts, but on personal emotion. It doesn't qualify as a debunking.
I don't necessarily disagree, but I would say that a lot of power scaling is wrapped up in emotion, like very much so.
Point just because you feel like something isn't right. Argument from belief. This is the flip side of argument from incredulity, where instead of choosing not to believe in presented evidence, you present your own belief as the proof. Mario's light speed because I said so. It's the same reason of argument from incredulity why this doesn't count as a discernible fact. It's your opinion, not an actual statement. Appeal to emotion.
Well, this is all opinion, right? There's no actual facts, really. Like, this shit is all made up. Like, let's be clear about that. But
another emotion-based fallacy. But appeal to emotion is basically when you try to use emotional tactics to force your opponent to think your way. Come on, you're a smart guy, you know I'm right. Or, of course Mario can dodge bullets. He wouldn't really be a cartoon hero if he could, you know. This is
that's okay. First one is like fairly manipulative. Second one is maybe not. uh like if he serves a specific narrative function and he wasn't able to do something that would live up to that narrative function, then you might have like a very weak argument for the idea that they could do it, right?
Based off some sort of sentimental
It is fact Mario is universal.
arguments. Neither statement is proof. One is flattery and the other is wishful thinking.
What? How is that wishful thinking? I mean, yeah, again, it's a very weak argument.
Appeal to tradition. This is when you try to argue that one character can beat another character because that's just how it has to be. Goku would solo all.
What? That's not a tradition. Appeal to tradition just doesn't really, like, if you wanted to say, like, if you wanted to talk about this, wait, hold on, let's see his example.
Of Mario's friends. What makes you think Mario could beat him? You're trying to argue that because one way has to be true, the other way must be as well. One thing can be true on its own, but doesn't necessarily have to be true for others.
Okay, if Mario's friends are as strong, like, okay, if all of Mario's friends could beat Mario, and Goku can beat all of Mario's friends, then isn't that some evidence to the idea that Goku could beat Mario? Like, it's not incontrovertible evidence. Like, maybe there's something special about Mario that lets him beat Goku. But that is, like, a perfectly fine argument to make.
The arguments can work in reverse too. Sonic always beats Hercule, so he definitely can beat Goku. Equivocation. This is the One Punch Man argument. This is the argument that basically says if you can interpret something this way, that way has to be true. The strongest version of this argument is Saitama would literally beat everyone because he can beat everyone in one punch, simply based on the fact that he's called One Punch Man. Similar arguments are Sonic is only speed of sound because Sonic means sound, or Vegeta's Big Bang attack has to be universal because the Big Bang created the universe.
Okay, hold on. These are not equivalent, right? So,
Called One Punch Man. Similar arguments.
Here's the thing. I know that Saitama can't actually beat everybody in one punch, right? Like, I think that that some people aren't able to be beaten in one punch. But if it were like a rule of the universe that Saitama could beat everybody in one punch, then why wouldn't it carry over? Like, why couldn't you make the argument that it carries over? If it's, like, literally a rule of the universe, right?
Are Sonic is only speed of sound because Sonic means sound, or
Yes.
Vegeta.
Yeah, these would be bad arguments, but I don't know about the One Punch
Big Bang
Man
attack has to be universal because the Big Bang created the universe. No limits fallacy. No limits fallacy is essentially this ability hasn't shown a limit, so there isn't one. There's no way to prove an ability with no known limit even has a limit. Examples are, Sonic has infinite speed because we have never seen his speed get pushed to the limit. Itachi said that only a Mangekyo Sharingan can beat him. That means every universe would lose because no one has that. Everything has an explanation, and
Wait.
that means every
Hold on.
universe to the limit. Itachi said that only a Mangekyo Sharingan can beat him. That means
Okay, but if this were true, like if it were actually true that only somebody with these specific things could beat them, then would it not be the case, like just factually, that nobody without those things could beat them? Like maybe this is not true in the narrative, but if it were actually true, like if somebody there's debates, okay, but what if it's specifically like you need a specific thing and it has nothing to do with power, right? Like, what if some people what if they're just built different, right? Like, what if somebody is only weak to a specific substance but all of that substance is gone, right? and can't be created for the rest of forever, right? Then surely nobody without that substance would be able to beat them.
Means every universe would lose because no one has that. Everything has an explanation and everything should have a limit unless stated otherwise.
Why? That's just an assumption. That's also just an assumption. Like, maybe it's an assumption that makes things more fun, but you know.
Undistributed middle. This is when you misuse the transitive property. If feet A implies feet B and feet B implies feet C, then feet C should imply feet A. This is very similar to how all thumbs are fingers but not all fingers are thumbs. Just because every thumb is a finger doesn't mean the reverse is true. Not all fingers are gonna be thumbs. Similarly, if you make a statement like every omnipotent being is a god, then the sage of six paths is omnipotent, this is undistributed middle. Fallacy.
What? Hold on.
Being is a god, then the sage of six paths is omnipotent, this is
Is the Sage of Six Paths a god? Like, I don't understand what we would mean by this. Like, I agree, right? It just because all gods are omniscient does not mean that all sorry, other way around. Just because all omniscient things are a god does not mean that all gods are omniscient, right? Obviously that would be fine, right? But I'm not sure what this person, the Sage of the Six whoever, is being connected to.
undistributed middle. Fallacy. Fallacy is a warning to anyone who uses this list to their advantage. These fallacies are there to be called out so that when your opponent uses said fallacy, that they can rethink their strategy. You cannot, by any means, use the fact that they are using a fallacy to imply that you are right in this debate. Just like your opponent, you need to apply logic too. You can't cheap it by exclaiming, "Minor spelling mistake, I win." Argument from anecdotal evidence. This is when you try to imply your proof by telling a story that—
What? No, that's not what anecdotal evidence means. Anecdotal evidence means that you're using one case to make a generalization. Which, by the way, like, anecdotal evidence isn't really a thing in debates like this, because all of your evidence is anecdotal, right? Like, a feat, right, is necessarily an anecdotal piece of evidence.
can't be confirmed or denied. Because we can't prove your evidence in this story, we won't agree with you as a result. Biggest argument often used is with Madara versus Itachi, where people will randomly say, "Kishimoto once said that he had to kill Itachi because he would have beaten Madara." There is no proof that he has said that to anybody, and you can't use that as an argument.
Okay, sure. I mean, yes, this is a bad argument, but it's not generally what anecdotal evidence means. Like, an argument from anecdotal evidence is like, what's a good example? My mom was bad at driving, therefore all women are bad at driving, you know? Like, that's an argument from anecdotal evidence. It's when you try to apply one case to many cases, or to a general case. I mean, yes, Marim, it could be multiple cases, but I'm saying that, like, when you're talking about like, individual people, it's not really the same thing, right? Like, if I say you cheated at Monopoly and here is the example of you cheating at Monopoly, you can't say, well, that's just anecdotal evidence, because, like, you know, it just is the evidence in itself. Like, you're not making a generalization in that case. You're just saying that you did cheat in that one case. And also, to be clear, and you know, like, the general case might be you always cheat at Monopoly, but at how many times do you need to show that in order to prove it, right? Like, if I show it enough times, I feel like I'm just going to say you always cheat at Monopoly, even if I don't have evidence for every single instance of it, right? Yeah.
by example. Basically, this is when you do provide proof of something, but then use that proof to speak generally. Reverse Flash can't be that fast because he's been tagged by Batman who's slow. Therefore, anyone of Batman's speed is enough to hurt Reverse Flash. This statement ignores the possibility of this being a statistical anomaly and not held true all the time.
Sure. That could always be the case, but there's no statistics. There's no statistics with this.
You need to prove that your example is not an anomaly and there's a clear, discerning explanation or proof to these things. You'll see this argument be used all the time with Toon Force characters like Bugs Bunny or even Mario, where because they'll have moments where something as simple as a hammer is able to destroy them, apparently completely rebukes all the times they have been so above those leagues, you have to naturally assume these characters are at their best.
Why? Why do you need to assume that they're at their best? Why can't I assume that they're at their worst? Because sometimes they'll be at their worst, right?
Affirming the consequence. This happens when you use a premise to prove a conclusion, when you're supposed to use a
What? What the fuck? No, this isn't affirming the consequent. What? What is this? What the fuck does this argument?
conclusion to prove the premise. People who can jump 100 meters in the air should have building level strength in their legs. Since Mario has done that before, he has to be building level. Simply saying a statement like this should come with proof that it works like this in the Mario world. Denying the anticipation.
That's not affirming the consequent. Okay. Affirming the consequent is when you have if A then B, B therefore A. This is just not it's just not the right fallacy. I don't know what fucking fallacy this is. Like
this is the opposite of affirming the consequence, where you use a premise to prove a conclusion and use that to say they don't follow this premise, therefore they don't follow this conclusion. They are both quite similar to non sequiturs. Bias sample. Bias sample is
like this is like affirming the consequent. It just means if A then B, B therefore A. That's affirming the consequent. Also, all scientific reasoning is affirming the consequent. All of it, every single piece of it. All courtroom reasoning is affirming the consequent too. Affirming the consequent is like bad in a deductive argument, but in an abductive argument, all abductive arguments affirm the consequent.
similar to appeal to popularity, except you use some well-known person's thought about a fight as proof of who would win. The Mario example of this is Mario would beat Sonic in a fight because Death Battle says so. Death Battle is not the only source, and one could argue that they have a bias against Sonic due to how many Death Battles the franchise have lost.
But wait, hold on. Hold the fucking... What about earlier when you talked about appeal to motive? Like when you talked about appeal to motive, you fucking said that like you can't just accuse somebody of being biased and to discount their arguments. Well, you can't do that. Come on, man. Come on. Yes, Maram, I'm aware. If you just say fail to reject. But the thing is that most people think that science is like giving you true statements, right? Like scientific realism affirms the consequent.
Like it's been repeated time and again in this video, you have to prove your own proof and research, and not to rely on sentiments or bias samples.
I mean, if somebody is more of an expert than I am in a subject, like power scaling, I feel like it makes sense to defer to them, you know?
to work with. This could be more finicky too. Say you have a vote for who's in agreement on durability, Mario or Sonic. If this vote was done in a Sonic specific YouTube channel, of course Sonic would get the winning agreements and vice versa. Half-truth. This is when someone provides proof and evidence but leaves out crucial information to prove their points. Consider this a lie of omission, where you say something like, Mario was able to beat Culex, therefore Culex can be beaten by anyone on Mario's level. This is a half-truth, as beating Culex didn't just take Mario, it took 2 other people to do it, maybe 5 totally if you're looking at a more lore perspective of it. Hasty generalization.
Hold on a second, I need to do something real quick. I'm back. All right. Yeah. Listen, Mara. Listen. Listen. Maybe there are no experts in power scaling. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to offer a rebuttal here.
This can overlap with proof by example. A lot of these fallacies can overlap actually, where you don't
Yeah, maybe that's because it's kind of useless to like enumerate fallacies like this.
get enough evidence to prove the conclusion you're trying to make. Mario has been beaten by regular enemies. Therefore, even a Toad can beat Mario in a fight. This ignores all the times where this wasn't true, and is a hastily made conclusion, misleading.
Okay, but surely, sometimes it will be true, yes? Like, sometimes? Even if it's not true all the time, there are certainly some conditions where it could be true. And that might be enough for an argument. Yeah.
Vividness. This is almost exactly proved by example. But instead of just giving the example, they just give a
Right, this fucking thing is just like
lot of detail to the example. So back to my original proof by example, Reverse Flash isn't fast. He's been tagged by Batman, who is able to stab him in the foot, so anyone of Batman's speed can tag him. The details don't prove anything, but it's there to try and...
It does prove something, right? Like, it proves specifically where he was tagged.
Convince you. Package deal. People think this is transitive property again, but it isn't. A is true, A is associated with B, so B is true. Mario can move faster in light, and ergo can travel through time. Because going faster in light and time travel are tied, one can make this argument, but you have no idea how time travel works in the Mario world, and there's no proof of this. False dichotomy. This is when you say that given some options, only one is true.
I guess... What the fuck? Sorry. I'm just like, I'm kind of bewildered because like obviously it wouldn't follow, but what?
No proof of this. False dichotomy. This is when you say that given some options, only one is true.
Yeah,
to prove your point. When Bowser shot a fireball at Mario, Mario had 2 options. Either he was fast enough to jump out of the way, or block it. This doesn't work as it removes the possibility of other options. Namely, what if Mario saw Bowser build up for the attack and just prepared his defenses beforehand? False dichotomy forces you to think a certain way without keeping an open mind.
I mean, this is like, sure, a false dichotomy is fallacious, but this is a really weird example.
To other potential openings. Correlation implies causation. Event A is associated with event B. Therefore, event A causes event B.
Don't make me get all Humian here. Don't make me get all Humian here.
When Mario is in the dream world and he fused with Luigi, Mario's stat is the combination of his and Luigi. Therefore, anyone who fuses with Mario in the dream dimension will give Mario a similar buff. This leaves out the possibility that's different other times, like how...
Okay. Sure. It does leave out that possibility, but like, come on. Why can't you make the argument that it wouldn't be different, right? Like, maybe Luigi is special, but also maybe he's not. Like, you know, what if being outside of their universe causes them to instantly explode? Like, at what point do we say that it's like... At what point do we say it's enough? This is kind of just like a a what are you willing to accept? Because there's no proof here, right? Yeah.
Phantasma enters Mario, but doesn't give Mario any of his stats. Post hoc. Post hoc is when you enters Mario, but doesn't give Mario a possibility that's different other times. Like how Phantasma enters Mario, but
enters? Yeah, but because he was trying to hurt him, right? That would be the explanation.
doesn't give Mario any of his stats. Post hoc. Post hoc is when you believe that because two events happen one right after the other, that the events had to have been caused by the other. So for a dumb example, Mario had no sleeves when he beat Shadow Mario. Therefore, Mario having no sleeves gave him enough power to beat him. The counter argument.
What? That's not what post. What? That's not what post hoc means. Like, okay. It's a like a post hoc justification is one that's retroactive. Like, that's all it means. Like, this would actually be correlation and causation. This would be a correlation causation problem, not the other one. What?
The post hoc is that it ignores any other explanation for Mario being able to win. In this case, poisoning the well. Similar to ad hominem, but instead of trying to insult your opponent directly, you devalue him in front of the audience or judges and try to make him appear invalid for the argument. Your Honor, my opponent is
Are there judges in power scaling?
a stinky Sonic fan. He won't speak the Mario name correctly and will say Sonic beats Mario. He shouldn't be trusted. Obviously, the only truly stinky person is you. Fallacy of accidents. Somebody tells you a general rule to justify something when there could exist exceptions or the rule itself is an exception. In a fight, the faster character usually wins. Mario can move faster than Sonic by using a warp pipe, therefore he will win. Not only is the faster character thing come with possible exceptions, warp pipe is a unique exception too that counts as teleportation and can't actually count in a speed debate.
Wait, why can't it count in a speed debate?
Ooh. This is a variation of ad hominem, where an argument gets dismissed by devaluing the person's practices rather than their argument.
Wait, what?
Actually counts in a speed debate. Ooh. This is a variation of ad hominem, where an argument gets
So that's correct.
dismissed by devaluing the person's practices rather than their argument.
No. Tu quoque is like it's basically the fallacy of hypocrisy. Like you can't say, for example, you say smoking is bad for you, and yet you smoke. Therefore, smoking must not be bad for you, right? Like it's saying, tu quoque basically means you too, I think. But this is not tu quoque. Like, it's not just judging their practices. That's just ad hominem. It has to be like it's specifically about them being a hypocrite.
Mario has never stated to be able to jump over 100 blocks. That's a lie. Well, you lied when you said Sonic was stated to outrun a black hole. You need to give proof. Discrediting the person in question doesn't add or help your case.
Okay, that's like almost right.
Loaded question. This is when a person gives you a rhetorical gotcha question that makes it regardless of a yes or no answer, you won't win. Are you still making that stupid claim? Saying yes admits that it's a stupid claim. Saying no admits that it's a stupid claim. Fallacy of composition. Basically, if a person
Yes, that is a list.
saying no admits that it's a stupid claim. Fallacy of composition. Basically, if a person say that A is true, then anything larger than A is also true. Mario can beat Pikachu, therefore he can beat the entire Pokemon verse. Argumentum.
Larger? It's not about larger, it's about whether or not if A is a constituent part of B.
adverbosium. This is when someone tries to prove their claim by sending what's essentially a twitlonger, but said twitlonger is repetitive and doesn't come with any strong evidence. The purpose of this is usually to try and exhaust your opponent with constant yapping.
This isn't a fallacy. This is just like bad argument form. This isn't a fallacy. Like, fallacy is bad reasoning. This isn't bad reasoning. It's just like bad argument form.
Constant beating around the bush. Figure of speech is when you take a saying or figure of speech literally. Like when there exists a statement like Mario's reaction is godlike, therefore he is a god. Godlike is often used as hyperbole or simply as a hype statement. Unless made clear, it doesn't usually mean that Mario has reactions of a proper god. Argentum ad nauseum is probably the most toxic one, where in spite of how many times you argue against someone's point, they just keep saying the same exact points as an argument with the intent to make you give up and concede out of sheer annoyance.
Okay, but... Okay, hold on. If you haven't addressed the point, then they're justified in repeating it, right? If you haven't properly addressed it, then they are justified in repeating it.
I don't even want to give an example for this one. Golden mean fallacy. This is the idea that when given two opposing viewpoints, that the correct viewpoint is somewhere in between. Essentially, it's when you make the argument of, I think Mario beats Pea Shooter, you think Pea Shooter beats Mario. That must mean they are probably equal. This doesn't give credence to the possibility that one of these viewpoints is just not correct. Style over substance. This is the...
Well, it could be. It could be, right? Like, obviously, it's not always going to be the case. But if there seems to be like a split among experts, then you would generally want to avoid taking a big, strong stance. Yeah.
The argument you give where you personally think one is stronger than the other just from how much more spectacle there is to them. This is very common, and it's a pretty popular...
Okay, but spectacle is not... Is spectacle not part of, like, how you judge the feat?
The reason why so many characters would be thrown into versus...
The Gojo lose streak was funny as hell, as all heck.
What? Debates just because of their flashy new style. It's like saying Sonic has after images and blurs whenever he moves, Mario doesn't. Therefore, Sonic has to be faster. Visual is artist interpretation, a style. Just because one thing is drawn a certain way unlike another, doesn't mean it's not of this certain way.
What? Writing is also a style. Like, can I not use the visual elements in order to try and prove my point? Like, do the visual elements not matter for showing, like, a specific... Like, if a specific physical effect can only be obtained when a specific, like, physical thing happens, and you see that physical effect, then that's pretty good evidence that the physical thing is happening, yes? Like... Anyway, this is a 50-50. Yeah, fuck that. So true, right? We're talking about reality here.
False analogy. This is when you try to argue a point using an analogy, but the analogy doesn't work. It's like saying Mario versus Flash is the same as trying to swat a fly. Yeah, the fly is fast and hard to get, but you'll eventually get them. It goes without saying that a fly is far, far weaker than a person, which may not apply to this debate whatsoever. Analogies need to be more on the nose than this. Faulty premise. This is similar...
Hold on. I guess. I don't know. That's like... That's not the example I would use, because, like, obviously the analogy just has nothing to do with it. But some false analogies are, like, way more subtle. So...
Similar to affirming the consequence, but this time...
No. A faulty premise is not similar to affirming the consequence. It's just it's a completely different thing. A faulty premise just means that you disagree with the premise.
Instead of using an honest premise that can be possible, the premise is just wrong. If you're able to make rocks fly upwards just by powering up, then that must mean gravity manipulation is at play. What answer does Mario have to Goku's manipulating gravity? This premise just doesn't make any sense, as there could be other explanations to this effect, and this current explanation is also on its own not... Could be other...
Like, it could just be... Motherfucker! What is it? What do you mean? It's all an artistic choice. All of it is an artistic choice.
Explanations to this effect, and this current explanation is also on its own not making sense. Genetic fallacy. This is when you say, this isn't your argument, so I won't counter it. That does not matter. An argument
What?
is still an argument, and you need to counter it as a result. Just because a person says, you got this calculation from a website, I'm not countering copied work. Make your own conclusions next time. This is completely ignorant, as this doesn't.
Okay, sure. That's like one form of a genetic fallacy, but a more general form is that the source of the argument doesn't matter in general. Which is also like bad, by the way. Like you should actually consider the source of the argument. What would be, how do I do an agenda piece debate? That would be funny. I'd be down to try that. I just don't know how. You gotta inform me of how this works. But also, like, here's the thing: you did a genetic fallacy earlier when you were talking about like death battle, right? Like, this is the thing: is that all of these fallacies are just kind of, you throw them out whenever you think you're wrong, the other person is wrong, and not actually when it's appropriate. Because it is technically a genetic fallacy to say, oh, your argument comes from death battle, therefore it must be wrong, right? Like, that's also a genetic fallacy. And I don't know if death battle is respected in, like, the power scaling community or not. Like, I know that people have argued with them in the past, but that's not, like, it's neither here nor there. But yeah.
At all try to deny the point, just the person making the point. Incomplete comparison. This is when you try to make a vague claim in hopes of it being a valid argument. You'll hear this time and again, and people say things like, but Sonic's really fast, or but Goku's really strong. But it questions, to what standards are you saying this? To what extent do you mean? Who are you comparing any character to when you're making this claim? Yeah, Goku is pretty strong next to Yamcha, but he doesn't look that strong next to Grandmaster Zeno.
Interesting that these... Werewin was correct. These examples have stopped involving Mario. Katakuri. Which one is Katakuri again? Okay, I haven't reached Katakuri. I'm still... I'm still in Punk Hazard, so I'm a little far off from that one.
Consistent comparison. This is when you try to prove your points by comparing a person's feats to multiple other characters. This only works if these comparisons are meaningful. For example, if I was to say something like, Mario would beat any Sonic character. He's faster than Vector, smarter than Sonic, stronger than Espio. Yeah, these comparisons might be true, but they aren't actually that special. These would have more meaning if the conclusions I drew was he's faster than Sonic, smarter than Eggman, stronger than Knuckles, because these are high tiers of their stat. It would matter a lot more here. It's much more consistent. Invalid.
You know what? I will give him that one, because that's a really good, that was actually like a good example that he gave. Even though this is like not a recognized fallacy by anything, like I think he gave a good example of how this argument could be a good one, and that's really what I want from this video, is to show that like these arguments are contextually bad or good, and that they're not absolutely bad or good, right? Like if you show that Mario is faster, smarter, stronger than the fastest Sonic character, the strongest Sonic character, and the smartest Sonic character, then you would have shown, I think, something. And he does that. So you know what? Good on you for doing this one. I give you a thumbs up on this point.
High tiers of their stat. It would matter a lot more here. It's much more consistent. Invalid proof. Invalid proof, aside from meaning this proof is wrong, is more commonly when you provide calculations for some power, but you did the math wrong. If I said to you
Is this really is this worthy of being a fallacy? Is this worthy?
That Mario has scalings to show that he's 10 times stronger than an atomic nuke, and then gives you the math and it shows 10 times weaker. I think the most memed version of this was in Death Battle's first Goku vs Superman, where they blatantly got wrong the math they used for their scalings on Goku. This was clowned on in the power scaling community. Even
For those who don't get it, SS2 is supposed to be 100 times faster than base. What? For those who don't get it, Super Saiyan 2 is supposed to be 100 times faster than base. Oh. Is it just because it's the same... Just because it's the same thing? Like, because it's the same figure? Ace versus pre-time skip Crocodile. I mean, my assumption... So here's the thing, is that fucking One Piece is really inconsistent with like power scaling, at least in my experience. But I think it's gonna come down to if Ace can use Hockey or not, right? Like, I don't know that if Ace can use if Ace is a Hockey user. Like, I imagine he would be, because how is he like one of Whitebeard's, like, what, third in command, if he can't use Hockey at all? And Crocodile pre-time skip is never shown to use Hockey. And if he could use Hockey, I don't know why he didn't against Luffy, right? So my guess is that Ace would beat pre-time skip Crocodile if he has Hockey. Hockey is where, when you don't want to know, it's Haki, Hockey. It's willpower, I think, like, canonically. So, like, if you have a lot of willpower, you can, like, punch people really hard. And you can also, like, sense what they're gonna do next, and, like, where they are. And you can also make people pass out. That's true. Yes, he does have, like, a lot of potential for Conqueror's Hockey. I meant, like, does he use armament Hockey? Because, like, here's the thing. I'm remembering in his battle with Blackbeard, it was treated as, like, really significant that he could be touched by Blackbeard, even though armament Hockey is just able to do that, right? And he wasn't expecting to be touched by Blackbeard, which kind of implies to me that he isn't experienced fighting against Hockey. But that's, like, that would be really strange to me, that he wouldn't be experienced fighting Hockey, because he's in the new world, right? And he's the third in command to Whitebeard. So, you know, it seems like it would be really weird for him not to be prepared for that kind of thing. I don't know. But that did always stick out to me, like that it was seemed significant that Blackbeard could touch him, even though he should be aware of the fact that Hockey would be able to touch him.
Kid me was looking at this and was a little confused. Affirming a disjunct. This is when you say,
Hold on. Yeah, so base. I think they just put a decimal place in the wrong place. By the way, I don't know if this is controversial, but like obviously Superman beats Goku, right? Like this is obvious, I feel like. Because Superman has basically done like any bullshit thing that you can think of.
Even Kid Me was looking at this and was a little confused. Affirming a disjunct. This is when you say there can only be two possibilities. One is true and the other is false. Ignoring the possibility that
He had both. Yeah.
they are both true or both false. Either Mario has great arm strength or great leg strength. We have seen him jump high, so he has to have great leg strength. Right. Existential fallacy.
Hold on. Affirming a disjunct. Sure. Isn't this just like another form of a false dichotomy?
Seen him jump high, so he has to have great leg strength. Right. Existential fallacy. This is when your argument hinges on something's existence when it doesn't exist. If Mario gets stronger with each power-up star up until 150, then Mario with 200 stars would be even stronger. Here's the thing though, you might be right. Might not, but there is no game where Mario can get 200 stars. Fallacy of exclusive.
What? But that seems like a perfectly fine argument to make. Like, obviously it's a leap in logic, but all of this is a leap in logic. Well, yeah, Maram, I would imagine that Ace has all three, because if he's in the new world, then he should obviously have them all. You know? Like, as Whitebeard second in command. It's just, like, a little strange to me that, like, he wasn't expecting Blackbeard to be able to touch him.
Premise. This is when someone gives you two negative premises and tries to associate them. No Mario character can jump fast. Some Mario characters cannot dodge. So that means Mario characters that can jump fast can't dodge. There's no real association to be had here.
What's the opposite of the fallacy of composition? The opposite of the fallacy of composition would be the fallacy of division, right? Like, obviously, just to be clear, like, it's not like, it doesn't logically follow that more stars would make him even stronger. But I think it's like, if you've seen a linear relationship up to that point, then you have, like, at least some reason to be able to extrapolate, no? Also, like, how... Here's an interesting question. How do power scalers deal with, like, glitches? So, like, if I can glitch Mario to have infinite health, then does that mean that Mario is, like, invincible? Like, if I can glitch, if I can glitch him into no-clip mode, does that mean that Mario has no-clip mode? I'm kind of... How do they determine what a glitch is and what isn't with respect to video games?
One isn't proven by the other. And my favorite, appeal to reality fallacy. Have you ever heard or used this argument? This character can't be faster in light because nothing is faster in light. It literally takes infinite energy and it's the speed limit. He has to be moving either near light speed or at it. This is appeal to reality fallacy, where because of how things work in our reality, you presume they work the same way in any written reality, which is obviously not true. You have no clue whether the world that was written is a world that allows passing in the speed limit. Hence, it's not an argument that can be used. Only certain things like simple mathematical concepts can stay, largely due.
Wait, why? Why can simple mathematical constants stay? True! Exactly where Mario canonically can go to parallel universes.
due to how self-explanatory it is. Yes, force is how hard something is hitting you. This is everything I know. You can check the wiki itself if you want to get its explanations on things. These are how I interpret each and every fallacy. Now, for all versus debate fiends out there, have fun and subscribe.
I didn't have to click that. All right. That was an interesting video. I will give him credit that in some cases he gave a good explanation. However, I am in general just very skeptical of the idea that you can list all of these fallacies, or that you should, because I think that people try to like overfit to fallacies. Like they start seeing a fallacy where there isn't one, or they ignore a good argument just because it's like technically deductively fallacious. And that's bad. Like I think that the general public doesn't really have enough of an understanding of fallacies to be able to correctly use them. So and again, a lot of these are just like the wrong fallacy. Like
Hello, Moto.
affirming the consequent is just not what he says it is.
Oh my god.
So it's like, I don't know. Anyway, I was to answer the question earlier, I feel like Ace beats Crocodile pre-time skip, right? Like that seems true. Like even though Crocodile, like Sand is like a better counter to fire, I feel like the fact that Ace is able to use armament hockey and we have no indication that that Crocodile can use armament hockey just says would show that Ace can hurt Crocodile, but Crocodile could probably not hurt Ace, at least not that well. So also they have the same exact weakness, right? Like they would both be weak to water. So I don't know. Am I right about that, Marum? Have I or have I upset the power scalers by saying that Ace would win? Also, fuck. Why? Why the 50-50? Fuck you. I hate this shit. Anyway. That was fun. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that video, even though it wasn't like super good, because like it's power scaling, man. It's not that serious. I don't know. Like I always just come back to that one Stan Lee quote that like the winner of any fight is just going to be whoever the writers want to win. Also, how do power scalers deal with like psychology? So like if a character wouldn't kill, like if they have like an absolute moral code against killing, then does that get factored into their power scaling or not? Because if we're going to factor in something like their intelligence, why shouldn't we also factor in their like moral code? Yeah, it had nothing to do with fucking Mario. So I think we're already. Um, generally speaking, it implies they have to fight. Yeah, because like otherwise. Oh, right, because Sanji is like a chauvinist. That's really fucking funny. Of course. That's so fucking funny. Of course it would be a thing with Sanji. Uh anyway, I'm just gonna restart that one because that one is kind of a lost cause. Jesus, this one is also fucking jeez. These are some bad starts. Like I don't know. I think power scaling is fun, but like the how seriously people take it, and also just like I don't know. To me, who wins in a fight is like way more a narrative question than it is like a stats question. And I think that power scalers get it into their heads sometimes that what they think should happen on paper is what should happen in the actual show or movie or book or whatever or video game. And that annoys me a little bit because it's like, you know, if you could predict the outcome to everything before it happens, like is it like I don't know. Like I do think there should be some fidelity to it. Like I don't think that like it can be very very annoying when power scaling is not consistent. Like I watched Fairy Tale, for example, and Fairy Tale is a great example of a show that just doesn't make any fucking sense because there's no consistent power scaling. Like who can beat who or how strong people are at any given time is just like completely up to whether or not the narrative demands them be a certain strength, you know? Like fucking like the wind guy is able to fucking beat Master Makarov, but Master Makarov is also one of the 10 wizard saints or whatever the fuck, right? Um or how like whenever people switch to the good side, they always get a nerf for some reason. I don't in Fairy Tale, it's really weird. Like Juvia is just like is supposed to be an S class wizard, but is not able to beat up like normal enemies. I realize that I've probably lost all of you talking about uh a lot of by talking about Fairy Tale. I do not really suggest watching Fairy Tale. I did though. God, it happens all the fucking time. Or like the main character, this always fucking happens in Fairy Tale where the main character just gets to fucking punch way above his weight for one fight for no reason. Like it's really annoying and dumb and lame in my opinion. I should I have a lot. I have a surprising amount to say about Fairy Tale, if you can believe it. It's like it is like a I find it to be a really fascinating piece of work. even though it's not good. Like, it's bad, but it's bad in a way that I find really interesting. Also, are we fucked? I think that we're fucked. No, we're not. We still have these. Yeah, it is like a very generic battle shonen. But what I find really interesting about it is that, like, it's what makes it bad in an interesting way is that it goes out of its way to, like, set up interesting situations and then resolve them in a way that's deeply unsatisfying, or like presenting a complex moral dilemma only to back out at the last minute. Like, it wants to say something and then it's like, fuck you for even having thought that we were trying to say something interesting, kind of thing. Like, I call it like it's like it is anti-complex in the sense that it isn't just not complex, it actively has disdain for the idea that it could be complex. And that's interesting, you know? It is so fucking infuriating. It is so infuriating. You have no idea. Like, fucking, oh my god, this is like the biggest, like, one of the biggest ones for me is the one of the main girls, Urza, is like, she has like this backstory where she's from like a slave camp, which is really fucking weird. Could you make it through Fairy Tale? Uh, I've never seen Bleach. I will say I enjoyed My Hero Academia considerably more than I enjoyed Fairy Tale. Like, considerably. I actually really like My Hero up until the uh up until the point where the guy, like, turns into a Nomu. Fuck. What's his name? I can't fucking. Is it the war arc? I don't know. Up until the war arc, I actually really like My Hero, but in the war arc, it's just like it gets so fucking boring. And that's like, if you're not with Fairy Tale, like, if you're not vibing with it, it is so boring, and it's also like really bad in other ways. Like, it is so sexist. It is so, like, disgusting. Um, in how it treats its female characters. Um, like considerably, like, imagine if everybody was Minato. It's not quite that bad, actually, but like, there are a lot more. My Hero Academia has one Minato. There are like several Minatos in Fairy Tale. It's really bad. Anyway, though, what was I saying? Right. So Urza is from, like, is like an escaped slave. Like, she was in a slave camp and she escaped when she was younger. But the twist is that she led an uprising in the slave camp, but she ended up leaving a lot of her friends behind, right? After the uprising happened. And that is a really interesting hook, in my opinion, because what ends up happening is that her friends, like her former friends who were in the slave camp with her, like, come back and uh and fucking, like, are mad at her because they left or that she left them behind in the slave camp and escaped on her own, allegedly, right? And I think that's a really interesting hook because, on the one hand, it really does make sense that they would feel fucking abandoned, but also she was like a child trying to escape slavery, right? And so you have this really interesting, like, emotional conflict where uh somebody did something that's, like, wrong or hurtful, but also something that you can't really blame them for because they were so young and, as trying to not be a slave, right? But what ends up happening is that you just find out that she was basically framed for it. And that, like, the other kid, one of the other kids, sent her away on a ship and burned all of the other ships himself just to frame her as having betrayed them so that he could keep the people there and become the slaver himself. And also, and can you believe it? You find out later that he was being mind controlled by another person who themselves was like an abused like child. It's just like it's a complete fucking chain of random bullshit to excuse what the characters were doing, right? Like as soon as you need to think about um a character as having done something wrong or even like somewhat morally ambiguous, there some excuse is invented for how actually the character was fine all along and that it was just a big misunderstanding. And that's what I mean by it being anti-complex, that it sets out a really interesting premise that it doesn't do anything with and punishes you for thinking that they would do something interesting with. Um and there's another really good example of this that I really cannot go into because it's like just too long of an example to really talk about. Um but just trust me that this show does it a lot. It does it all the fucking time. And it gets on my nerves, to say the least. I watched all of Fairy Tale, by the way. I don't know why I did this to myself, but I thought I when I was a lot younger, I watched it. And I wanted to see basically what would have happened if I had continued. Why do you hate My Hero, Marum? Because like I think some of the earlier stuff is pretty good, honestly. Like I think that the stuff with Todoroki's family is really interesting to me. Um I think that like the tournament arc is like pretty interesting. Like that tournament arc is pretty interesting. Um I thought it was really cool how how do I say this? Like I thought a lot of the characters had interesting dynamics to them. Um and that like there was care put into said dynamics. The issue of course is that it started like going back on those things. Like do you remember when Uraraka was entirely motivated by money? Like remember that how that was like kind of a cool subversion, but now she just wants to be a hero for generic reasons. Like like wow, way to fucking kneecap her character and just make her way less interesting than she was before, you know? And then there was like, oh, there's so much other stuff that's just like annoying. Minato in particular though is just like so bad. But I don't know. I really like a lot of My Hero. Like I think for example the it's not really an arc, but like the festival. My favorite part personally was like the festival uh mini arc with like the what was his like gentle criminal or whatever, right? And how the threat was like not existential at all, but it was mostly just about um Deku trying to make sure that everyone got to have a good day. Like I thought that was really cool. And really interesting. And it had a lot more weight to it to me than a lot of like the existential threats did, where these people just want to have a fucking break, and this one like prankster basically is going to potentially interfere with their ability to do that. And and Deku just basically has to like do what he can to not let that happen. Like that's like really sweet in a way that is like hard to articulate, It makes the stakes a lot more personal and thus more interesting. Like I thought that was really cool. Yeah. I don't know if it counts as a full arc. It was pretty short, but like I thought that was. I wish that the characters went somewhere too. Like it became kind of clear to me that they weren't going to go anywhere. Though apparently at the end of the war arc, Todoroki leaves the academy, but then not Todoroki, fucking Deku. Deku leaves the academy. But then like immediately goes back. Also, I cannot believe I've since looked up a lot of stuff. Apparently, Oyama is like a sleeper agent. Like they somehow brought that plotline back, because I remember early in the show there was a question of like who the sleeper agent was, and it was like who it kind of just got dropped, but then they brought it back. Like did they just realize that they had forgotten it? Like I thought it was going to be the detective, uh, honestly, but it ended up being Oyama. Yeah, they definitely did keep introducing characters. Like there are too many fucking characters. Like holy shit. Like the school the here's the thing. You have enough interesting characters in class, what is it? 1A, that you don't need to introduce a whole lot of other characters, you know? You just have like an interesting enough set of characters, assuming that you do something with them, which obviously they often did not do anything with them, but you know. Also, I must say the shipping was like painfully slow. Like holy shit. Like have it full force or don't have it at all. Like god fucking damn it, man. Like with what's her name? Jihiro, is it Chihiro? The sound girl and Electric Man. I don't fucking remember their names. Like they keep teasing they kept teasing a romance between them, and then just like not having the romance. And there wasn't like enough of to their characters that I like really cared. Like I don't know. Like obviously some characters got more development than others, but it's like I don't know. I definitely feel like the characters sometimes got ended up getting less interesting. Like this guy is the embodiment of a disabled nerd emoji. Thanks, real life criminal and prisoner. I thanks for that. Sure. Oh, right. Bakugo got like way less interesting as fucking as the show went on, honestly. Like I liked him more when he was a violent and angry person. Um like I thought that was a more interesting angle. Oh, and the way that they fucking shafted uh Uraraka and fuck. Ida, right? Ida? Fast Man. I can't fucking I you can tell that like I'm a little bit behind because uh I just don't remember all of their names. I was able to remember their names for a while, but I just forgot. Oh, and I was always sad that that Tsuyu didn't get uh more stuff to do. Cuz I liked her. I thought she was cool. Like she in the beginning of the show she got more stuff to do, but then by the time I was at, it was mostly just the Deku Bakugo Todoroki show, and none of the other characters really mattered that much. Yeah, I don't know. That's just like that is like way more of a tangent. I will probably never pick My Hero back up again, even though I have watched worse things than My Hero, like all the way through. Again, I watched Fairy Tail all the way through, even though it is like I would say like a good bit worse than My Hero. It is also just like I don't know. I don't know why I was able to watch Fairy Tail all the way through. I think it's just nostalgia and also just like seeing how I wanted to see how I could be disappointed next, you know? And that's it's not the same with My Hero because with My Hero I actually had expectations to have to be dashed. And in with Fairy Tale, I stopped having expectations at some point, and I was just like, okay, how what new premise are they going to do that's really interesting that they're just going to contradict later? Anyway, I'm probably just spinning my wheels at this point. I should probably go. I'm not really. I'm mostly just talking at this point. Um. Anyway, uh, if anybody is still here and you want an actual good anime to watch, it is Pride Month, so you should watch Revolutionary Girl Utena. It is the best show ever, and you should watch it. Um, you have no excuse. It's Pride Month. It's it is the universal moral law that you should watch it. All right. You know, Kant wrote that in the groundwork of the metaphysics of morals. You are meant to watch Revolutionary Girl Utena. With that, I will see everybody later. Take care. Goodbye.